Thor vs. God of War Thor, which thunder god will win in a fight? We all know that Thor has many beloved versions. He is regarded as one of the most renowned mythological gods in history. Of course, we cannot overlook Thor in the fictional world of superheroes, particularly the Marvel Thor and the Thor in God of War. If we imagine these gods facing off against each other, we would notice a stark difference between them. The Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe MCU does not fully display his power compared to the original Marvel comics, where Thor is depicted with unparalleled strength, capable of taking on the most powerful entities in the universe. Meanwhile, Thor in God of War doesn't showcase the same level of power, although he's strong enough to defeat Kratos. But before we dive into the analysis, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and click the bell icon. Thank you. The Thor from Norse mythology is considered one of the strongest beings in the universe, if not the strongest, and completely different from the Thor in Avengers Infinity War, who is portrayed as an extremely powerful alien. The Norse Thor truly wields the power of a divine god. This Thor can shatter massive mountain ranges and once defeated the gigantic world serpent capable of destroying the earth. The God of War Thor is considered the most powerful incarnation of the Aesir gods, surpassing other gods in terms of strength. In the God of War storyline, he is one of the mightiest gods with incredible feats like nearly wiping out the entire Jotnar giants and going head-to-head with Jormungandr, a massive serpent large enough to encircle all of Midgard, in Marvel Comics universe. Thor is also depicted as one of the strongest characters, able to stand against enemies with comparable power. He belongs to the strength class of 100, meaning he can lift objects heavier than 100 tons and is one of the few characters who can take on opponents capable of leveling cities or continents like Hulk and Hercules. It's hard to find many Marvel characters who surpass Thor in strength. One could say Thor is one of the most powerful gods alongside Kratos in God of War, but Thor from Marvel Comics goes even further, nearing the level of a cosmic entity, especially after he becomes the All-Father. The MCU hasn't fully highlighted Thor's actual speed because in the comics he can move incredibly fast. Thor is often mentioned as being able to throw Mjolnir at speeds faster than light, allowing him to fly at super speeds. Not only in the air, but Thor also has extremely quick reflexes in battles. Though God of War's Thor appears bulky and heavy, don't let his appearance fool you. He can move fast enough to keep up with Kratos, who has speed comparable to other speed gods like Zeus and Hermes. This shows that Thor is one of the few gods capable of overpowering Kratos in their fight, as demonstrated in God of War Ragnarok. However, while God of War Thor is quick, Marvel Comics Thor possesses the ability to fly at speeds exceeding the speed of light, making him one of the most powerful and fearsome characters. The Marvel version of Thor is one of the most resilient and enduring characters we've seen in Marvel Comics. Although he doesn't possess the invulnerability of Hulk or Thanos, Thor can withstand the attacks of the strongest entities in the Marvel Universe. He has taken direct hits from Odin and even survived battles with Null, a primordial god that existed before the universe. Meanwhile, the God of War Thor in this version can endure the strongest attacks from Kratos without showing any significant damage. The most incredible thing about Thor's durability in God of War is his ability to survive numerous strikes from all of Kratos' weapons and still stand firm unbeaten. In Marvel Comics, Thor is the god of thunder, meaning he wields ultimate control over lightning, able to create bolts powerful enough to take down divine beings. Thor's power significantly increases when he becomes the All-Father because he not only controls lightning but also enhances his magical abilities through his connection to the Odin Force. Meanwhile, God of War Thor is often seen as brutish, but in reality his elemental control is quite impressive. He can summon massive storms, as seen when he first visits Kratos' home, filling the sky with thunder and lightning. God of War Thor seems capable of flying freely without relying on his hammer, which highlights his formidable strength in that universe. The fact that Marvel Thor is closer to the level of a Skyfather means his power is astonishing enough to threaten some of the strongest characters in the comics. As such, he is much stronger than God of War Thor. Thor in Marvel Comics is a seasoned warrior, thoroughly trained in Asgard's combat arts. His vast experience from centuries of battle makes him a master of all types of weapons, but even when unarmed. Thor is a highly dangerous opponent in hand-to-hand combat. With supreme fighting skills, he is strong enough to face formidable foes like Hercules, Hulk, and even the primordial god Null. In God of War, Thor is considered Odin's iron fist, the one sent whenever someone needs to be destroyed. He is regarded as the mightiest warrior among the Aesir gods, shouldering the task of nearly exterminating all the giants. Thor's combat abilities are on par with Kratos, whose skills and strength have been honed through years of intense training as a Spartan warrior. In one of Thor's famous adventures in Norse mythology, he, along with Loki and another companion, set off to explore the land of the giants. During their journey, they found a strange cave made of leather to shelter for the night. But Thor couldn't sleep due to the constant, thunderous noise. He decided to go outside to investigate the source of the disturbance. Climbing a tall mountain, Thor discovered a massive giant sleeping, snoring like rumbling thunder. It turned out that the cave they were sheltering in was one of this giant's enormous gloves. And determined, Thor gripped his hammer, Mjolnir, and struck 3 mighty blows to the giant's head, but astonishingly, the giant didn't even notice. He merely mumbled that it felt like a leaf had fallen lightly on his head. Thor was stunned by the size and endurance of this giant. The next day, the giant led Thor and his companions to the fortress of the giants. Upon arrival, the king of the giants welcomed Thor and challenged him with 3 tasks to prove his strength. The first task was to lift the king's cat. Thor scoffed, confidently claiming that he would complete it with ease, but when the large cat appeared, Thor used all his strength to pull, but he couldn't lift it. The giants around him burst out laughing, mocking his weakness. In his anger, Thor gripped the cat tighter and poured all his strength into one final pull. In the end, he managed to lift just one of the cat's paws slightly off the ground. The giant king immediately signaled for Thor to stop, his face slightly pale. In the distance, a low rumbling sound like an earthquake echoed, adding tension to the atmosphere. Despite the mockery, Thor still demonstrated his terrifying strength against these formidable foes. Thor's next challenge was to drink an entire drinking horn in one gulp. Thor proclaimed that there wasn't a horn on Earth he couldn't drain. The king presented a large horn and handed it to Thor. Thor raised it to his lips and took a deep, mighty drink. He found the giant's drink salty and unpleasant, but he drank as much as he could before he had to stop to catch his breath. To his horror, he had only managed to drain a few inches from the horn. Subscribe to our channel, it helps us a lot, and you'll get to enjoy great videos every day. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Summoning all his courage, Thor lifted the horn and drank deeply, longer and harder than ever before, until his lungs felt like they would burst. Finally, he lowered the horn, and the liquid had only dropped by a few more inches. Frustrated and disgusted, Thor angrily threw the horn aside. For the final challenge, the king decreed that Thor must wrestle one of the giants. Thor eagerly agreed, confident that no one could defeat him in wrestling. However, the king declared that since Thor had appeared too weak in the previous challenges, he would not wrestle the strong warriors, but rather the king's grandmother. Thor grimaced but agreed. But from behind the king, an extremely old woman emerged, ready for a wrestling match with the god of thunder. Thor fought fiercely with the old woman, but her strength was unbelievable. No matter how hard Thor tried to push, pull, or exert his full force, she remained steady, unmoved. Finally, as the mocking laughter of the giants further enraged him, Thor decided to use all his might, grabbing the old woman and forcing her to her knees. At that moment, the giant king clapped his hands, declaring the match over and announcing Thor's defeat, forcing him to leave the kingdom. Escorted out by the king, Thor and his companions left the castle, but as Thor looked back, the castle had vanished without a trace. The king then revealed an incredible truth: he had used illusions to deceive Thor, making him believe he was unworthy and forcing him to leave. Thor's true victory was overcoming a sophisticated spell. The king disclosed that he himself was the giant Thor had failed to wake with his powerful hammer strikes. However, thanks to his magic, he had redirected all the force from Thor's blows onto a nearby mountain range. The giant showed Thor the majestic range, where deep grooves and vast valleys had been carved by the force of Mjolnir's blows. Next, the king explained that the giant cat Thor had failed to lift was not an ordinary cat, but was actually Jormungandr, the mythical world serpent. With its immense body, Jormungandr had wrapped itself around the earth multiple times to disguise itself, making Thor unaware of its true nature. This challenge was far beyond Thor's imagination, as he hadn't realized that he had been attempting to lift a creature so large that it encircled the entire planet by lifting the cat's paw. Thor had actually lifted a portion of Jormungandr's body, an impossible feat. If he had continued lifting, the force would have destroyed the entire world. The king further revealed that the drinking horn Thor had failed to drain was magically connected to the ocean, and Thor had been attempting to drain all the world's oceans. While Thor had failed, he had drunk so much water that from that day on, the oceans would surge back and forth to cover the area Thor had consumed, which is why we have tides today. Finally, the king revealed that the old woman Thor wrestled was actually Ellie, the personification of old age in Norse mythology. When Thor forced the old woman to her knees, he accomplished something almost unimaginable, defeating old age itself through sheer physical strength and willpower. This was a feat that even the greatest warriors could not achieve. The king admitted that he had made a grave mistake by allowing someone as powerful as Thor into his kingdom. Hearing Thor's wrath and the possibility of revenge for this deception, the king declared that he would use magic to conceal the kingdom, ensuring that Thor would never find them again. Meanwhile, although the Marvel version of Thor is incredibly powerful, he still doesn't reach the mythological level. Marvel's Thor cannot reshape mountains with just a few light strikes from Mjolnir, he can't lift a serpent the size of Earth, he can't drink millions or even billions of gallons of water in one go, and he certainly cannot wrestle with abstract concepts like old age. As for Thor's ability to perform extraordinary feats in Marvel, he can indeed do things like that, and even more in some versions. However, I want to emphasize that Thor's strength in the comics is quite inconsistent. There are times when he's strong enough to destroy planets, but at other times, his strength diminishes significantly. Considering Thor's average power level in the comics, he actually can't compare to his Norse mythological counterpart. Of course, if we're talking about versions like Old King Thor or Rune King Thor or any other highly powerful variant, that's a different story with powers far exceeding the usual Thor. This makes the portrayal of Thor in Marvel quite diverse. Marvel Thor could kill Hulk with just one throw of Mjolnir. In fact, he almost took down Hulk with just a regular punch, not even relying on the strength of a throw. Keep in mind, a regular punch generates far less force than a throw. Thor once threw his hammer with the power of 1,000 suns to destroy Surtur, the giant fire demon. Thor has also killed Glory, a powerful being said to rival Odin in strength. When Thor wielded the power of the rune, he surpassed even Odin, becoming one with the universe and defeating enormous cosmic entities like the Celestials and Beyonders, who had previously slain abstract beings like the Living Tribunal. Thanos, even before acquiring the Infinity Stones, slaughtered billions and easily defeated Hulk, even killing half of Asgard's population, which included powerful gods. After obtaining the Infinity Stones, Thanos' power grew even more terrifying. He was barely injured, with only a single drop of blood despite multiple attacks from superheroes, including the Master of the Mystic Arts, the smartest creature on Earth, and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor nearly avenged them when he drove his axe, Stormbreaker, deep into Thanos' chest. Though the Mad Titan survived, Thor did what no one else could, delivering a fatal blow that no other hero could accomplish. Both versions of Thor are gods of thunder, meaning they cannot harm each other with lightning, so it would come down to strength and weapons. While the mythological Thor could pull the Midgard serpent out of the ocean, the MCU Thor also accomplished this feat about 1,000 years ago. Since then, MCU Thor has had time to improve his abilities and strength. Additionally, he now wields Stormbreaker. Both Marvel Comics Thor and God of War's Thor are incredibly powerful individuals, standing out among other characters in their respective fictional universes. The strength of both Thors far surpasses many opponents, but when compared, the feats achieved by Marvel's Thor far exceed those of God of War's Thor. Marvel's Thor has faced and triumphed over enormous and incredibly powerful cosmic entities, from the Celestials to the seemingly invincible Beyonders. Meanwhile, God of War's Thor, though extremely powerful, is limited to feats related to the storyline and universe of the game world. Therefore, it's not surprising that we believe Marvel's Thor is vastly superior in strength compared to God of War's Thor, both in terms of scale and the sheer magnitude of the feats he has accomplished. What do you think? We want to hear your opinions. Thank you for watching. That's today's video. I'll end the video here. Thank you so much.